Decisions to be made, all on decision day, Saturday across the MLS as teams are locking in their playoff spots. Some teams already eliminated, looking to just close out the regular season on a high note. And for the Philadelphia Union, battling for that number 3 seed. Renee Washington, JP Zapata, we've got a great guest joining us today as well from the New England Revolution. Ahead of the final game of the regular season, as the Philadelphia Union are taking on the Revolution, not only are we going to give a preview from our perspective, but it's great to bring in somebody that's been following the team closely, covering the team closely, and that is our guest for today, Sam Minton, who's the site manager for Blazing Musket out of New England, covering the Rev, and here on PHLY Union Podcast today. Sam, welcome. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute blast, JP. Obviously, great catching up with you, but should be a fun matchup coming up this weekend.
Sam, it is so good seeing you, my man. I appreciate you coming and taking some time on a Friday night, man. How you been? What's going on? What's new up in the New England area?
I mean, I don't know if you heard about this. Bruce Arena isn't coaching anymore. It's this wild new thing. But yeah, a lot of turbulent times up here in New England, and it'll be interesting to see just how this team kind of recovers and moves on from it. But obviously a big matchup coming this Saturday.
Well, Sam, you mentioned Bruce. We'll get there. But first, I want to just get your thoughts ahead of this weekend's game. Now, for the Revolution coming in, obviously not a great stretch at the last part of this regular season, but we could say the same for the Union. Both teams, I looked at their recent results. For the Revolution, just 2 wins in their last 9 games with 3 ties, 4 losses. And as we know on the other side, for all the Union fans, it's been a lot of ties. 6 draws and 2 wins in their last 8 games, both dating back to when each team played the Red Bulls, ironically enough. So for the Revolution coming into today, what have you seen from this team and their leading into the regular season finale that's going to make them a tricky opponent for the Union?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to their ability on the wings and their dynamic players in those areas. Obviously, DeJuan Jones has been a great player so far this season. Was just recently with the U.S. men's national team, and he just really, brings some pace and also the ability to spring service into the box with his play. Thomas Shankala has been an amazing addition for the Revolution. I'd be stunned, if he doesn't get that permanent purchase option triggered this offseason. Again, another dynamic player, but just amazing on the ball. Has similar traits to Gustavo Bo, where he can shoot from anywhere and is going to be able to, score an amazing goal. So I think it's going to come down to those wing plays and, hopefully a big player like Shankala, obviously Carlos Gil making the plays, making the difference, hopefully getting 3 points for the Revs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to New England, obviously with Bruce Arena was there, it was a lot of heavy possessioning. I mean, you guys ran a lot of that 4-2-3-1 as well. Obviously, it's interesting to see Gustavo Bomi is a little bit older, and Shankala does seem like he may be the heir apparent. Obviously, you guys got a little bit of something out of Bobby Wood too, which is incredible too. But, kind of talk a little bit about, we'll talk obviously off the pitch, but on the pitch, what has been the issue per se for New England?
Especially since Clint P.A. has taken over, the tactics have really been focused. Again, with Bruce, you didn't really talk tactics. So what are tactics? Formation is just something that you start with and it ends up going on. But since Clint P.A. has taken over, he's really implemented his tactical system. He has a lot of focus on, playing interesting formations. At times, it seemed like he was really focused on playing a sole striker. Ever since he's taken over, the Revolution have been wide open on the counterattack, and teams have been able to pick them apart. It was interesting against the match versus Nashville. We saw him kind of stray from that. He was playing 2 strikers. Again, there was a lot of absences, whether it be injury or international appearances, but he kind of changed things up, and it was looking pretty good. And obviously Nashville did what Nashville does. They scored goals, Hani Mukhtar, Sam Sir, but it was a good change, and you saw a change in net. Jacob Jackson, a player who made his MLS debut, he's going to be starting against the Philadelphia Union. But it seemed like, especially playing those two strikers, Shankale and Bo, really were impressive. And if they're going to be able to get 3 points, I think it's going to be because you have Shankale and Bo up top, causing some chaos.
Yes, yeah. Well, it definitely is going to be a very stressful weekend for Philly sports fans. I know Eugene Krabs in the chat, you're saying not only namaste, but going to be a stressful weekend for Philly sports fans. And George, welcome to you as well. It is a big game. Playoff positions are on the line. And what makes this even more stressful, as we all know, is there's the potential, if everything was to end today, the Union would be sitting at number 3. The Revolution would be sitting at number 5. They would not match up in game 1. But there is a chance that depending on how this shakes out, the game Saturday could be the first before they play each other again in the first round, which is wild. So what has the conversation been like behind the scenes for the Revolution and leading into this regular season finale?
I really think for this team, they want to end on a strong note. It's been a really difficult few months for them. They've constantly been dropping points. It's been really reminiscent of the 2022 season where it just seemed like everything was going wrong for the team. And it seems like they're, kind of, back on the right direction. The vibe around the club seems to be increasing in a positive direction. So I think it's really crucial for this team to head into the postseason on a high note. And obviously New England, I would say there isn't a lot of hope for this team. It wouldn't be surprising to see them be one and done. But I think if you're able to get hot at the right time, maybe this team's capable of making some magic. You have Shankale, you have Bo, you have Carlos Heel. Those are some players who can do a lot of amazing things. So if you're able to get those guys feeding off each other, playing well, you might stand a chance. But if you, play against Philly, you're at home, looking to possibly clinch a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot. If you, have a stinker, it could be a real damaging thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the team go one and done. So I think it's really important for the team to get a win and, hopefully head into the postseason on a high note.
Yeah, real quick with that, Sam. What's going on at goalkeeper? Obviously, Petrovic, gets sold off in the summertime, and now you guys are going back between Jackson, I'm sorry, and Carl Edwards as well. So what is exactly going on at the goalkeeper position?
Yeah, and it's funny, you don't even mention the guy who they picked to replace George Petrovic, Thomas Vasily. He hasn't even, made an appearance since being acquired. Seems like it might just be a fitness thing or just overall gelling, but if I had to guess, it would be fitness. He failed a medical with AZ Alkmaar, which ended up with him being a free agent. So seems like something fitness-wise isn't working there. And Earl Edwards Jr. was really the guy. I think he did a pretty good job stepping in for George Petrovic. It's an impossible task. Obviously, he's over at Chelsea. And, replacing a goalkeeper of his caliber is really an impossible task. But he did a good job. And then Jacob Jackson played against Nashville and essentially Clint PA said that he earned the chance to get another start. And I'm really excited to see what he can do. A young kid, a lot of time with Revs too, and showed some promise. So it's interesting that you get the chance to see what he's capable of. But obviously, heading into the playoffs, you'd ideally want someone like Vasily, playing and being able to make an impact. Having a young goalkeeper potentially making his third ever start, in a postseason game, that's a tall task. So it'll be interesting to see how Jackson holds up.
Yeah, and Sam, obviously you're pushing for New England to get their first win since September 30th in that 2-1 victory over Charlotte. So I'm not even going to ask who you think is going to win, but what are your predictions on how this game is going to play out in terms of score?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would love to see the Revolution get 3 points, but we just actually got some news. My colleague, Steph Maycomber, fellow Blazing Musket member, reported that Henry Kessler did not train. Obviously, Kessler's a big part of the back line. Dave Romney has done a great job in his stead. Andrew Farrell has been kind of in and out of the lineup with injuries. And also, too, you have a veteran, Omar Gonzalez, who's probably more suited to a bench role. So especially considering that news, it seems like the back line could be ripe for the picking. And you have Carranza, you have the Gazdags, you have the Uris. I'm not feeling so confident. I'd love to see them get 3 points, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see the Union, get a win. It was interesting, the Union were able to get that 3-0 victory over the Revs earlier in the season, and that's one of the largest margins, the Revolution were beaten by this entire season. The Union are always a tough opponent, so as much as Revolution fans would like to see it, I don't know if we're going to get that, kind of storybook, happy ending to the season with the 3 points.
No, man, it's funny because that game, that was one where the Union really needed to come out and show that energy, and they really stepped up in a big way. And it's funny because with New England, you guys have always had a strong defensive unit, especially whether it was Matt Turner or Petrovic. That wall back there is always so comfortable to have. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, we talked about it before, Sam. I mean, if Omar Gonzalez is back there, I mean, with Carranza, Gazag, and Urre, I mean, it could be a long night for New England tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I'll give some credit to Omar. He's done a little bit better this season, especially compared to prior. But I don't think he's a guy you want starting in a pivotal game. You ideally want him coming off the bench, closing games, and he's had to start at some points. Farrell's dealt with injuries. Kessler's been out for so long, and it seemed like you were on the right track with Kessler, getting minutes. But it seems like something's popped up, and that's a big loss. Dave Romney's been probably the MVP of the back line, and some would probably argue MVP, but obviously that's Carlos Heel. But he's been an absolute great addition and been great for them. So hopefully they're able to figure it out without him.
Yeah. And not only is it fitting that we have you on today as we're getting ready to, see the Union take on the Revolution tomorrow, but of course the news that broke right on time to be able to talk to you about it. I'm glad it did happen before the show so we could talk to you about the Bruce Arena news. Obviously, the former U.S. men's national team and New England Revolution head coach has not been coaching in the league right now, but is trying to get back into it. Put his name in for the role with DC United. What were your initial thoughts when you saw that news come across your Twitter, your timeline, whatever it is that showed you it? What were your initial thoughts when you heard Bruce Arena is trying to get back into the MLS?
Part of me was like, this isn't really that surprising. I mean, obviously it was an unceremonious end to Bruce Arena's time in New England. I think everyone kind of knew that the clock was ticking, and, Bruce is an old man, he's in his 70s. He's expressed a willingness to want to do more than soccer. But with just how it ended, it seemed like this wasn't how it was going to go down. Bruce kind of wanted to do it on his terms. I don't think he would want to have his last moment in MLS be him issuing an apology and a resignation. So it's not that surprising. Obviously, DC United, too, a team that he's quite familiar with. But it seems like it's been a bit of a sting to Revolution fans. They just held a supporter summit. The Rebellion, the supporters group, kind of organized the whole thing, kind of looking for transparency from the club. And obviously, you can't get into the details of everything regarding Bruce Arena. But it was a real touching point where we're all wondering where Bruce is, what's happening. Obviously, he admitted some guilt in his apology, but there's still a lot of unknowns. And I think it would still sting Revolution fans if he ends up going to DC and there's not really an explanation. I think, some people would run to their own conclusions, but I definitely think it would sting to see him go, especially to a team in the Eastern Conference, kind of a rival, if you want to say. So definitely not surprising, but it'll be interesting to see just what comes of it, especially here in New England. He was head coach and sporting director. Doesn't seem like he would get that in DC. And of course, you'd have to apply for reinstatement. So definitely, everything's always interesting when it comes to Bruce.
Real quick, because listen, I know there's not a lot of details out there, but obviously as well that MLS circles are very small and talk goes around very far somehow. Is there any insight of the situation that happened with Bruce in New England?
I mean, I wish I could tell you, there's things that you hear and you're like, is this it? And you hear so many things, you're like, you can imagine it, but it's not anything you can really report on. So we're all still wondering. I know my colleague, Tommy Quinlan, is really itching to find out what it is. I don't know if we'll ever find out what it is, especially, to go cross sports. The Celtics, they had the whole Ime Udoka situation, and, there's still not a lot known about that. It just seems like this is an HR thing that, is going to be hidden behind that wall. Maybe if Bruce wants to tell his story, if Charlie Joseph wants to tell his story, if someone wants to tell their story, maybe we'll get that story. But we're all trying to figure out what happened, and we're just coming up empty.
Really part of the 30 for 30 in 10 years.
And that's what makes this whole news breaking about the DC job that much more surprising, because it's not that long ago, August, that Bruce was out of New England and now already is putting his name back in the hat. As we all know, he would have to go through a process to make that actually happen with writing a letter and reinstatement and everything. But to still see that quick turnaround, it's the same season. It's still the fall of the same season. But for the Revolution specifically, And I love the integrity part that you dropped in. So I just want to quickly note that, because a lot of reporters would not have done that and would have broken, something and shared something they weren't supposed to for clicks or for, just getting their name out there. So I love the fact that you have the integrity to say, like, nope, I can't share a lot. There's still a lot that's still in the works. But also you've seen this team, how they've evolved and how they've changed since that, turnover and since Bruce Arena was no longer with the club. What is it about this group? And I'm not... I think as a former player myself, results aside, the fact that we're playing each other tomorrow aside, it's still a group of guys that had to deal with change and, adversity and challenges with their head coach. What is it that has helped this group be able to battle through all the adversity, from Bruce Arena to just not being able to get the results they want, that makes them such a tough team, especially as we're looking into the closing part of the season?
Yeah, I think it's a real testament to the locker room and just that atmosphere that they've been able to build. They do have some very strong leaders, Carlos Heel, Matt Polster, Andrew Farrell, those guys. I think they've really held it down. Obviously, there was some reports of kind of discontent, the whole Richie Williams saga. But, the players really were quick to kind of squash that and say, that wasn't exactly the case. And so I think it's really a testament to the leadership that they have. Even, as time has gone on, you have Clint P.A. playing Matt Polster at left back, a position he hasn't really played at all. He's played right back, but it's a little bit different playing on the other side. And, he's been a trooper. He'll admit to the media, I feel I'm most influential in the midfield. And, I would love to play in the midfield, but he's still gone out there and played. It's not like he's walking off the pitch and refusing to play. So I think really the leadership, especially Carlos Heel, Andrew Farrell, Matt Polster, they've done a great job of, banding the locker room together. And again, it would, like you said, it would make a great 30 for 30 if this team was somehow able to make a run in, the MLS Cup postseason.
It would truly be something wild if that did happen. So just off of your opinion, real quick, what do you see the plan is for this upcoming offseason, in your opinion, for New England?
Yeah, so, we are actually, luckily, we did have some sources kind of at the, reporting and giving us information on this summit. And it seems like the priority is that Brian Biello expressed is to get a sporting director. That's similar to reporting that The Athletic had. So I think really it's figuring out who the sporting director is and then getting that head coaching hire. Depending on who that is, I think we could see a lot of roster turnover. You mentioned Omar Gonzalez, Ben Sweat, Tommy McNamara, some veterans who I think they've served the club, especially in Tommy Mac's case. But it seems like their time could be coming to an end. Also, some youngsters who haven't lived up to potential, like Justin Renix, maybe possibly a Damian Rivera. But I think there's going to be a lot of turnover, and you're going to see a new look revolution. It seems like the investment's still going to be there, but I would expect some changes. Gustavo Bo, his contract's up at the end of the season. Getting up in there in age at 33, he's someone that the club can move on from. So I think there's going to be some key pieces still there. Carlos Heel, you're going to have Dylan Barrero coming back. I think likely you have an Andrew Farrell coming back, Henry Kessler. But there's going to be some changes, and I think, whether it be on the sidelines, in the sporting role, or just the overall roster, there's going to be a little bit of a new look Revs coming in 2024.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, Sam, listen, really appreciate you coming on here for us, giving us the New England perspective. Real quick, just plug away before you head on out here, man.
Nah, appreciate it. Thank you both for having me. Just make sure to check us out at the Blazing Musket, covering all your New England soccer needs. Check us out on Twitter at Blazing Musket. We got a YouTube, we got an Instagram. Check us out all there. But appreciate it so much. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. You do such a great job, Sam. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. We appreciate you weighing in on the matchup and also on Bruce Arena.
Perfect. Thank you.
And of course, Sam is brought to you by our dear sponsor, FOCO. Ladies and gentlemen, FOCO, our dear friends, the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise. It is playoff time. We're getting to winter sports. Make sure you guys gear up for all of everything that's going on in Philly sports, our crazy world. And we got you hooked up here at PHLY. When you use the promo code PHLY, you will get 10% off of your purchase over at FOCO. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out our friends over at FOCO. Renee, well, I feel good. I do feel good about this matchup going to New England. I don't feel good about playing in turf. You know my thoughts about soccer on turf fields. But you heard kind of Sam and what he was discussing with New England and kind of the mishaps that they're having, the situations that they are having. they honestly have more drama than we do. I mean, there's been a lot of tea here in Philly, but up in New England, that tea's been piping hot. So I think it's going to be the battle of who's more focused in this one, to be honest with you.
Dare I say the Boston Tea Party and is happening up with the Revolution. Honestly, it didn't even hit me this has all been within the same amount of like such of months. And we've definitely had our fair share of drama going on here in Philly, but up in New England, they're trying to outdo us right now. So it is two similar teams coming into this with the same types of kind of path into the regular season finale. Decision Day is full of drama in itself, with everybody's scoreboard watching and trying to see who you're going to face and what the final playoff picture is going to be. But then you add in controversies, coaching controversies. Obviously, for the Union, there's been controversies over players and their futures with Ali Bedoya and Kai Wagner. You've got two teams that have been struggling to get clean sheets and have given up a number of goals. Also, looking at the fact that down the stretch, they haven't been able to win. I mean, I was dumbfounded when I took a look at just the breakdown. Since both teams played the New York Red Bulls, that's a common theme here, which is, I don't know, interesting. So the Union played the New York Red Bulls on September 3rd, won that game, obviously 4-1. Since they won that game, including that game, I should say, they've had 2 wins, 6 draws in their 8 games, and they've scored 13 goals, given up 9, whereas on the other side, for the Revolution, since facing the Red Bulls and winning 1-0 on August 30th, they've had 9 games, including that one, 2 wins, 3 ties, 4 losses, 14 goals scored, 15 goals against. So two teams that haven't been getting the results they want, haven't been getting the shutouts and clean sheets, which of course has led to the losses and ties, but also have been dealing, as you talk about, their fair share of tea that they've been working through off the pitch. Yeah. That's a huge factor, that you're going into Decision Day with all of these different things that you're like carrying around and baggage in that sense, where you should be just focusing on the game Saturday and focusing on being ready heading into the playoffs.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, when I look at both of these teams, obviously we discussed the problems that both of them do have, but looking at Philly, right, obviously we know the stigma around the Union and the amount of matches they've played. New England, they're just dealing with just straight up drama. But I do feel that the one thing that could be the factor here, because I think that both teams have difference makers throughout the pitch. Maybe we have the better goalkeeper for sure, right? But
for sure,
for a manager, I would definitely look at that. Obviously, Jimmy Boy, we know Jim and what he's been able to do in this league. But for New England, obviously they had to unfortunately find a replacement for Bruce Arena, so they went to New England Revolution 2. Clint Payet, as Sam was mentioning, has been managing there. So that could be something to look at as well. Like, I really feel like tomorrow, it's going to feel like a playoff match. Yeah. And so when it comes to that, those could be different things to look at here. Tactics and how you motivate your guys. And I think that's going to be a big factor here for Philly.
It's a huge factor. And, you know, at this point in the season, everybody is working through the same types of injuries. You're missing key players. Everybody's dealing with the heavy load, and your legs are heavier. You're not as fresh as you'd like to be, of course, coming off the international break. So there's absolutely those different aspects. I know you also, just looking at the availability, for the Union specifically, they don't have Jose Martinez, who's still going to be out dealing with that suspension. Jacob Glesnes is good. They did give him a day off. Jim Curtin was telling us prior to the show, they gave him a day off to recover. That would have been on Wednesday, because today's Friday. I don't even know what day it is. But on Wednesday, he had a day off to recover. So he should be ready to go for the game Saturday. Mbaizo's been dealing with an injury. Yep. Did pick up an injury behind the knee, as Jim was talking about. So that's going to take some time. Nothing that's alarming, but definitely we'll have him out. And then Matt Real rolled his ankle during training also on Wednesday. And he's in a similar situation where he's not 100%, but is questionable as to when he'll be back, but not looking like he'll be back this weekend.
That could be a key factor. Carles Gil with 11 goals and 14 assists this year. Typically, El Brujo locks down Mr. Gil down in the center, but with no Brujo, hopefully Bueno is good by match time, but that's definitely something to look out for as well. It's the two forward system for New England, something we're not really used to.
Yeah.
You know, even when Busca was there with Bo, like it felt like Busca was more as a guy more forward in the forward line, and then Bo was more the guy holding play. So it should be interesting to see how this type of style plays. But yeah, the wings have always been important for New England, and we know we can lock that down. Our boy Kai Wagner on one side and Nathan Harriel. Yeah. We'll see I'm sure he'll start if Mbaizo's dealing with this questionable injury. I would assume it'd be Harriel, but it'd be interesting to see as well. But it's gonna be a fun matchup, as it always is.
Yeah, and as you talk about for Carlos, he's a player you're gonna always know where he is defensively. They're gonna be looking to match up with him and make sure they're not allowing him to drift into spaces wide open, and then making sure that they're just sticking to what they do and how they look to play. And this team has, as Jim's talked about, as they've all talked about, they've dealt with a number of tests, they've dealt with a number of adversity, and they are looking to have momentum going into the playoffs. That's for everybody on decision day. It's an opportunity to close out the regular season, playing the right way for 90 minutes, having a good, confident game to walk away from heading into the postseason, and wanting to make sure that they're, getting that belief and that confidence plays out in terms of their performance. So, it is the real season beginning after decision day, but it's also a great matchup for them as we were just talking about with Sam and looking at the areas that the Revolution are struggling, especially defensively, that it could be a good opportunity for the Union to get their offense going. That's been a big part, that their attack has been able to generate a lot of shots, but it hasn't been able to finish. And as a goal scorer myself, it's very hard mentally, I can say from experience, when you are shooting, you're all around the goal, you're hitting the post, you're getting just wide, or you're even just struggling to challenge the keeper. Yeah. It's one thing to get a shot. It's another thing to make a keeper have to work and make a tough save. So this unit wants to make sure offensively they're doing a better job in the final third. And that's something I think Saturday's game is going to be a huge part of helping them kind of have that corner that they can turn and be a little bit better in the attack.
And typically, I feel like most years, especially under this era, you look at the last match of the year, you don't really put too much stock into it, but this one you have to, because of what's at stake, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I really what a way it could be if you head into the playoffs with all the momentum playing so well against New England. That really would go a long way in these upcoming playoffs that are going to be extra daunting as well.
Yeah, and I think the crazy thing is, you guys, as you're tuning in, hit the like button, subscribe, follow, join the conversation. What's up, Eugene Krabs? Red Bull does give you wings, and in the case of New York Red Bulls, then those wings maybe don't even take off. But it is an interesting situation because there's a lot at stake heading into decision day. Yes. Obviously, teams are not only fighting to get in for some, but for others, looking to lock in a home game, looking to lock in seeding, and on the outside, because of everything that happened with Ali Bedoya and the amount of ties that this team has had, with 6 ties in the last 8 games, we've found ourselves, talking a lot on this show, but in general, the Union conversation has been, this team is struggling, this team to the wall, this team is flat, this team's not going to be able to get the job done. And something that Jim Curtin was talking about that really put it in perspective nicely was they're actually very positive and optimistic, because they're still sitting right now as of today in the number 3 seed. They're still a team that they've got one of the top records across the league between both conferences. And I know we talked about this in our show yesterday. Offensive production has been the best consistently across the league for the last 5 or 6 years. And not to mention, they still are understanding that they're a team that people don't want to face in the playoffs. They're a team that people definitely don't want to face at Subaru Park in the playoffs. So bigger picture, yes, it's frustrating that they haven't been able to get wins down the stretch, but they're not giving up losses, and they still are sitting in a great spot heading into the playoffs. I know that's something that is the most important piece of all this, that the Union are still fighting for a number 3 or number 4 seed with the destiny in their hands to sit in number 3, which is the best part about all of this, JP.
Yeah, and I understand the mindset of the fan base right now is not the most positive, and I understand that completely. But I think, guys, we don't look too much about what's going on around the league, but a lot of teams are going through what we're going through.
Right.
And so with that being said, you look at the build of this team and some of the guys in this dressing room, you look at the manager who's managing these guys, and that's what should make you feel comfortable, not only tomorrow, but going into the playoffs. Because guys like Gazak, Carranza, and Urre, this back line, our goalkeeper, Jim, we've all been through this.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the playoffs, what happened in the regular season does not matter. And we know that best. I'm not talking about 2020, but
But it is the truth. It is the truth. And it's wild, because I was just looking on Instagram earlier today, and I forget the exact year. I need to pull it up really quickly. But, October 20th, 2019 was when the Philadelphia Union defeated the New York Red Bulls 4-3, and that was their first playoff win. And here we are in October 20 of 2023, and we're panicking. But this team, in such a short amount of time, you look at that first playoff win, the Supporters Shield in 2020 to the MLS Cup in 2022 to now, this team has taken huge strides. So there's no reason to panic or anything, especially at the fact that they control their own destiny. And looking at what has to happen to clinch that number 3 seed, it starts with just the Union winning. If the Union are able to win, the Union are able to clinch the number 3 seed. So let's take a look at the picture of what needs to happen, because it's pretty funky, it's pretty wonky. There's a lot there for how the Union are able to clinch a number 3 spot. So for the number 3 seed, it starts by just winning. If the Union win, easy, locked in, got that number 3 spot. So again, they control their own destiny against New England on Saturday. On the other side of that, if they don't win, they still actually can clinch a number 3 seed, JP. That's the crazy thing. If the Crew are able to lose against Montreal, or if both the Union and the Columbus Crew draw. Wow.
This is absolutely wild. Well, that's the screen we want, right? We want that 3 seed. But I think it's really simple, Renee. You take care of New England, and you don't have to worry about any other scenario. You take care of business, and you get that 3 seed. The higher the seed, the better, obviously. The more matches at Subaru Park, the better, obviously. So take care of business against New England, and we don't have to worry about the rest.
Yeah, because on the other side, there's a potential that they could not clinch the number 3 seed and be sitting at number 4.
Yes.
This is what we do not want. Now, if they lose or draw, then they would be sitting at number 4 if Columbus Crew was to win. But then there's also tiebreakers that play a factor into this. So by points-wise, if both the Union and the Crew were to draw, the Union could still clinch number 3 depending on the actual result of the game, because the first tiebreaker is goal differential. Mm-hmm. So if they were to both draw and the Union were to lose by 3 or more goals, which, gosh, if that happens, just don't even go to the playoffs at this point. My Lord, if you lose to the New England Revolution by 3 or more goals. But if they were to lose by 3 or more goals and the Crew was to draw, then they would clinch that number 4 seed. So honestly, the odds are very much in your favor that you have to have a substantially bad result in order to drop to number 4. It's still possible, but it's very unlikely if you just go on and take care of business.
And I'm fully confident that they're not going to lose by 3 goals. I'm pretty confident about that one. But if we happen to fall to 4, I don't feel too bad about it, because I'm looking at it now. It could either be it could really be New England or Atlanta. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not really scared of either one of those teams come playoff time.
No, I think the tricky thing is just that if they were to fall to number 4 and have to play the New England Revolution again, you hate to have to face a team back to back. Now, obviously, hasn't been that long since the Union played the Atlanta United. That was October 4th, but at least it's been it'll be a few weeks between that 3-2 victory against Atlanta compared to the playoffs. So it's always tough to face a team in general in a series. Best of 3, best of 5, doesn't matter. It's hard for playoffs to face a team and have to win out in a best of 3 series, but it becomes that much tougher if you have to face them in the regular season finale and then turn out and play them again. So that's why I think it makes most sense. Clinch that number 3 spot. Also be able to, you're working towards home field advantage. But the overall picture for the playoffs is pretty wild right now across the MLS. There's a number of teams that are still playing to get in. And I know there's the graphic that the MLS has of if the postseason started today. That's the exciting thing to look at, because that's where you get a nice picture of where the Union would be, who they'd be facing, what the road to the MLS Cup would be. And it makes it also that much more real that you can take a look at what the postseason road looks like for the Union. Yeah. If it were to end today with them at number 3, they would face Atlanta, who's currently at number 6. And I don't know if we had a chance, Tyler, to grab that, but we do have a look for you guys that we'll be able to talk through. But it's insane that there's also, JP, so many teams that are still fighting for that wild card and fighting to get in. I know we're talking a lot about the Union, and we're like, you need the number 3 spot. But there's a handful of teams that are still fighting on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, so we have the 8 and 9 spot here in the East that are still up for grabs. Montreal and DC currently hold it, but DC's kind of tied right now with the Red Bull, Chicago, and Charlotte. So yeah, the East. I think the Eastern Conference might be a little bit crazier, but the West is still pretty hectic because you have 3 spots up for grabs: 7, 8, and 9. Portland, Dallas, San Jose, SKC, and Minnesota all up for grabs there for those final 3 spots. So listen, get your popcorn ready. I know everyone come March is talking about bubble talk and March Madness, but this is gonna be November Madness, because this is gonna be absolutely wild, and this is gonna be entertaining, and more importantly, Renee, this is gonna be big for our league, You're talking about headlines is what brings people to a lot of these American pro leagues. You got the headlines, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to watch.
Yeah, it's insane that there are still 3 spots up for grabs in the West and 5 teams fighting for 2 spots in the East. I mean, that's what you want come decision day. That's why the league for the MLS has done this league round. Everybody's playing on the same day. I know the NWSL just had their decision day last week, which was the same exact amount of drama. I was a part of that drama as one of the analysts for one of the games, OL Reign and Megan Rapinoe's final regular season game.
How hectic is it from your perspective?
Oh, it's insane. And so this is why I'm very excited for Saturday, because it's pure chaos. Now, the difference between the MLS and the NWSL is in the NWSL, there were only 2 teams that have clinched the 6th spot. So there were 8 teams fighting for 4 playoff spots. Whereas in the MLS, you have 5 teams in the East fighting for 2 spots and a few teams fighting for the 3 spots in the West. So that makes it a little less chaotic, because there have been teams that have clinched, there have been teams that have locked in, but there's still teams, as we talked about with the Union, fighting for a higher seed. So it's a lot, because you're constantly scoreboard watching, and then as we talked about with the tiebreakers play a factor of you can't give up X amount of goals, or you want to score X amount of goals, or you want to win by a certain margin. So it's hectic, it's fun, but like you talk about for the growth of the league and just the direction it's moving, this is exactly what you tee up for. Get your popcorn ready, Eugene Krabs. Maybe don't get that ready that you'll be drunk high and out of control, but yeah, get your popcorn ready, spiral out, dupe, because this is the current postseason picture. The beautiful thing is, as we're talking about teams on the outside looking in, the Philadelphia Union are not one of them. That's the most important part.
We're done with those days.
So this is how it would end, be the current matchups, I should say. And we like this matchup because, again, it would allow for the Union to face Atlanta in the first round. It is a best of 3. So the wild card game is just 1 game. And then if you win, you're in, if you win the wild card game. And then the next round, the official round 1, is a best of 3, which is bonkers because these guys have already played so many games, but a best of 3 series that as of now would be the Union versus Atlanta.
That's wild.
And then they would face whoever was to come out of the brackets between Orlando City and Nashville. So that's an interesting matchup, actually.
Yeah, I do. So I feel confident because, like we talked about before, the Union and their playoff makeup, and they've been there before. So going up against a team like Atlanta, in a best of 3 series, obviously anything can happen, but I think overall, I think the Union can take care of business. Keep in mind here, a couple dates here. So obviously this weekend's decision day, wild card games, both of them will be on October 25th. The best of 3 series that we talked about, the round 1, October 28th through November 12th. There is a little bit of an international break after that. Then we have the conference semis and conference finals will be November 25th through December 3rd. And then MLS Cup, December 9th. So keep those dates saved, guys. Of course, we'll keep you posted as well, but it's going to be wild. One thing to keep is this is a lot of matches. That's just the one thing.
It's a lot.
We talked about the regular season, Leagues Cup, all the tournaments they played, but now you look a best of 3 series on top of a wild card game. Imagine if you're the 8 or 9 seed and then you win that wild card game. Now you got to go on that run. This is crazy, Renee.
That's why home games are important. And Eugene Krabs, you bring up a really good point that I actually hadn't even thought about, but it could also allow for the Union to knock off Atlanta in soccer, just like the Phillies knocked off the Braves in baseball. So, hey, I'm all for it. The Braves fans are still salty. I don't know that Atlanta fans are the same way that Philly sports fans are, where they're fans of all their teams. But if they are, it makes it that much sweeter that you have a chance to beat Atlanta in soccer, just like we did it in Major League Baseball. So I didn't even think about that, but Eugene Krabs, I like where your head is at. But there are also opportunities for you guys to check out if you want to rock some great merchandise, because we've got a new opportunity for you guys, and that is with Shady Rays. Shady Rays is good for just providing you guys with all year round types of eyewear, sunglasses, snow goggles. And the beauty is, if it breaks or something happens to it, they'll actually replace it. And you don't even have to worry about it. They've got you covered there. And so you can head over to Shady Rays. You can use the code PHLY to get 50% off of your purchase of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. You can try some yourself. And the also incredible thing about Shady Rays is they have 5-star ratings But they've been rated by over 250,000 people. That's a lot of ratings, and that's a very high ranking at that. Shady Rays gets you, like I said, snow goggles, all different types of frames, colors. So whether you're headed down the slopes, laying by the pool, sitting by the campfire, Shady Rays has it all. Not your typical pair of sunglasses, and they will also make sure to protect you if they are broken or lost, which as somebody that has lost their sunglasses, RIP'd my Ray-Bans, I wish I had Shady Rays at that time. So Shady Rays committed to making a difference in communities around the U.S. and can make a difference on your face if you buy some Shady Rays using that code PHLY and getting a nice discount of 50% off. That's an awesome deal.
That's one of our best deals we've had.
I know. It's number. I like that the percentage is going up because it definitely is a great deal that you
just
can
because
check
it's
out.
winter doesn't mean you don't need glasses, guys. So
No, a lot of people rock sunglasses year round, and Tyler Zulli being one of them. JP, you're a big sunglass person too.
I'm too much of a sunglass guy.
I'm actually not, but I'm trying to become one. I feel like they don't fit my face properly. I have a really small head, so sunglasses don't. But now I'm learning to find the right frames, and there's the big sunglasses, there's the round ones, there's square ones. Everybody's face is built for different sunglasses. It's not a one size fits all. If you can rock every pair of sunglasses,
I probably can't, but that's probably my downfall too. I will just do it.
I like the confidence too, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're I don't care, I'm gonna wear these anyways. It doesn't matter if they look weird, but I'm still gonna rock those sunglasses. But yeah, it's time to get into year-round sunglasses.
Yes.
That's my new thing. It's not just wearing swimwear and sunglasses in the summertime, but I feel like the next level of total balance, quick side rant, is to have them year-round. That means you're always somewhere cool where you need to be rocking some nice swimwear and sunglasses. But somewhere we're not cool right now is going to be up in New England this upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Union facing the Revolution. I almost said Phillies. Philadelphia Union facing the Revolution Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, kickoff at Gillette Stadium.
Yep.
And on turf. Now, I know everybody dislikes turf. As someone that's played on turf, I've never been a huge fan of it, but I just chuckle at the fact that now people are coming out with a lot of coaches, front offices, clubs have been complaining and protesting to get turf removed. You know how many knees and ankles and complete careers have been ruined behind turf in the past couple of decades, and now we're finally realizing, get rid of turf and play on grass, Bermuda grass. There's so many nice grass surfaces. You don't need turf.
Well, that's where my whole stance is with sharing pitches or sharing fields with the NFL teams. I'm not a big fan of it because of that. Obviously, the NFL, they're going to do what they want to do. It is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but let's try to get out of it. Now, I do believe because Boston's going to be one of those World Cup cities in 26, they are planning on switching back over to natural grass. We'll see.
They actually have been told, sorry to cut you off, but part of the World Cup, I've got some inside scoop.
Hey.
Part of the World Cup requirements for being able to host is that you have to have grass.
No, you should. No, 100%.
Yeah.
You absolutely should. I like that one. But so we'll see. Hopefully soon enough, we won't have to play on some of these grass fields. I think, I know Miami I think they're going to Charlotte this weekend too. So Messi playing on turf, do you really want to see that?
Messi doesn't Messi won't play on turf. He's put his foot down. He's like, nah, it's not happening.
Juego on turf.
But it is interesting. Again, it's ever since turf came out, everybody's so big on trends, and it was this trendy thing that you can have turf that every sport can play on, and it's weather resistance. You don't have to worry about when it snows or rains, and you can still play. You just plow the snow and you keep on playing. Okay, well, what about the fact that you might be able to actually play on that turf field when it snows, but what happens when your player has a torn ACL and they physically can't play regardless? So it just is at what expense are you going to have a beautiful field that might look prettier in the beginning, because eventually turf gets ugly.
Yeah.
Looks prettier in the beginning before it gets worn down, but is wearing down your players and causing Achilles, ACLs, MCLs, all types of injuries that are not just a couple weeks you're out. These are career-ending, season-ending injuries that are happening. So I'm all for the final realization. I'm glad people have finally woken up to the turf monster, because we've all talked about it for a very long time in the soccer world. New
England had the issue this year too. I mean, Dylan Borrero, upcoming player, youngster, gets hurt on their own pitch.
Yeah.
And some people want to point at the turf, some people don't, but it's kind of it's an occurrence now. A lot of players are getting hurt on that turf. It's not the best, and definitely need to move forward from it.
Injuries happen, but you don't want to increase the chances of it happening. If you can minimize and have a better surface, why not have a chance to make things safer for your players? So that part of it, I'm just tired of the constant lack of awareness of turf, and glad people are finally waking up to what turf provides. But we also have had a chance to take a step back and, leading into Decision Day, take a look at the matchup and give someone of our thoughts, or think through, I should say, who we are relying on or expecting to have a big game, keys to the game, because it's time for the Union to get a win. Obviously, they can still clinch the number 3 seed without a win, but it definitely makes the job easier. But more importantly, besides that number 3 spot in a home game, is the opportunity to have momentum going into the playoffs. You don't want to have another game of a tie, or even worse, a loss, as the way that you're closing out the regular season. It's very important that you're heading into that first round, best of 3 series, feeling good about yourselves. And for, as I personally take a step back, it's on the offensive side for me. I think defensively, this team has talked a lot about wanting to get clean sheets and different things. But at the end of the day, you cannot win games if you're not scoring goals. You can get shutouts, you can play well defensively, and you can then have a 0-0 draw. So I think offensively, I'd love to see for the Union just their creativity. They've done a good job of trying to diversify their shot selection, a mixture of services, set pieces, run a play, shots from distance, shots in the box. But the next level is that composure and creativity, that when you're in the final third, you have an idea of when you need to be selfish and take the shot and finish, or maybe make the extra pass. And now everything you're thinking about in the final third is, I'm going to either get the assist or the goal. So I'm either setting my teammate up to score, or I'm going to be the one that's scoring. It's not just being comfortable and complacent, I should say, with the fact that you're in the final third, that you're around the goal. It's that next level determination that I'm not settling for just being in the box. I'm going to come in the box and score. And you better keep me out the box or out of the attacking third, because every time I get here, I'm putting the ball in the back of the net. It's like that mentality of not being comfortable and complacent and just, we're out possessing. We're playing pretty soccer. We had more shots, more corners. Nope, you need more goals.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's the most important stat we need right now, is just more goals. So I would love to see the Union be better in the final third of having that, that mentality, that grit, that hunger. I know when growing up, it used to be like, you want to be around the goal and have this hunger as if like you haven't eaten and this is food, or like when you want to score as badly as you need to breathe, which is extreme. I understand that, but that's kind of how I used to think of it. Maybe that's why I was an extreme player, but you want to have the desire to score just as much as you need the desire to breathe and need air in your lungs. And when you're thinking about it like that, it's like, it's do or die. Yeah. And it puts pressure on you, but sometimes you need that extra pressure to really lock in and take advantage of opportunities versus letting them continue to squander. And play after play after play, you're keeping teams in the game, you're not getting on the scoreboard, and now you're allowing for things to go wrong. Instead of you taking the game by control, putting the ball in the back of the net, putting your opponent away, feeling good about yourselves, and winning the game.
If Jason Kelsey was here, he would tell us that hungry dogs score goals.
Exactly.
But no, I agree with you. Like, obviously, like away from Subaru Park, this team hasn't really exploded with goals. So it would be nice to see them, put a lot of shots. And I don't want to say a lot of shots. I want quality shots on net. And I think that's important. But I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to look defensively because of this matchup. Carles Gil, former MLS MVP, still here, still doing work, despite the drama around New England. No, El Brujo Martinez is huge. He usually shuts Gil down. And Bueno is questionable still, so hopefully he's good to play. But if not, what are you looking at? Are you looking at Elliott playing there as at 6? Possibly, if there is no Brujo Bueno, you might have to stick to that 3-back set, which I know not a lot of us do like. But I'm looking at shutting down Gil. He's important. He's still the engine of that New England attack. And I think just in general, that defensive structure is going to be so important. You got to keep Andre Blake clean as possible. You can't allow him to win you all these matches or get you these results. So there is an opportunity here to win this game. And I think that defensive, it has to start with that. Because we all know this Union team. If once the defense is rolling and you're getting those stops and you get that counterattack going, whether it be the low block or the mid block that you've seen a lot of, not a lot of high press this year, still a part of it, but that's really where their bread and butter is, that
Yeah.
low block or that mid block.
Well, it's a great point you actually bring up about Andre Blake, and I'm going to extend it to the rest of the team as well. The other side of this that people don't understand is the mental wear that you're putting on your keeper and your back line when you're not winning games or you're not scoring goals. A goal is kind of that sigh of relief for your team, like, whew. Okay, we got one.
Sure.
We're not done yet, but we got one. But if you have a team, as a team you are constantly under pressure, it's tied up, it's down the wire. Those edge of your seat types of plays and games are stressful, quite frankly. Like, just putting it straight and simple, it's stressful. So as a team, you want to take some of that pressure off. And now if you can score, that's why it's important to capitalize in the early minutes of the game. Score first, because all those little things help you as a team be able to just have fun, play more freely, and not worry about really being able to, or having to do anything drastic or crazy or scary. So I think for the Union, that's one of the most important pieces is it's already been a lot of games. It's already been a lot of minutes. It's been a lot of, unfortunately, some issues around the future for this team and what's going to happen with Ali Bedoya and Kai Wagner and who else, as well as dealing with the international break. Just so many things you can't control. Control what you can, and that's taking some of that pressure off, doing a good job defensively and offensively as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of talk about stress. You know what could be really stressful, ladies and gentlemen? Buying tickets. Well, we got you covered right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are partnered with Game Time. So guys, buying tickets doesn't have to be stressful. You can literally buy them right before game time and get them at the cheapest price right now. And then on top of that, if you are a first-time user, you can use our promo code PHLY to get 20% off. Playoffs? Yes, we're talking playoffs. And make sure you guys are using Game Time for those playoff games or matches. And thank you to our dear sponsor over at Game Time.
Yeah, $20 off though.
$20 off.
20% would be nice too, but it's $20.
$20.
But you know what? $20 could go a long way depending on which ballpark or stadium you're purchasing those tickets
Beer's
at.
not
If you're
cheap, guys. So
at Chase Field, for example, $20 might get you free tickets. Just saying for everybody that's going to watch the Phillies beat up on the Diamondbacks. Now, it's time for the Union to beat up on somebody. And I want to just get into a player that I think is going to be so pivotal in helping the Union win. Actually, I'll let you go first because I went first last time. So I'll let you jump in first.
I'm going to go, it's funny because I said defense is a key, but I'm going to go with an attacker here because, you're going to play defense. Someone has to score the goal. So I'm going with Julian Carranza. Listen, Carranza's been quiet. And I don't know if the Euro talks have gotten to his head, but, there's also a lot of matches been played. But what better way to get the attack going than with your Argentinian star? And let's get Julian Carranza in net. I'm looking at him to have a big one here, Renee.
Yeah, and he has been needing a goal.
Yes.
It's time. It's time for him to definitely score. Well, on the other side, I'm going to go with somebody that's kind of a playmaker and also has been heavily talked about for things off of the pitch this past week or so, and that's Ali Bedoya. And it's for a number of reasons. Now, one is obviously the play that Ali Bedoya brings on the field. 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points this season. Has played in 27 matches with 24 of those being starts. Has not scored since August 19th, but that has been a long time, guys. Did have a pair of assists, but Ali Bedoya is pivotal because as we talk about Jose Martinez not being out there, we know what Jack McGlynn brings as a midfielder. We don't know if Bueno is going to play. Part of being able to create goal and score goals is to have a playmaker that's helping to facilitate the attack. You need someone that's bridging the gap. You've got your back four, you've got Andre Blake that are locking things down defensively, but you're not just playing back to front. You need those playmakers in the midfield that are going to help, with the runs, the passes, the movement. So Ali Bedoya is important for that reason on the pitch, but also because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at him and trying to see what's his body language like, what's his demeanor like, how's he playing. Obviously, we know Ali Bedoya was caught off guard just like the rest of us and way more off guard with hearing that he's not going to be brought back next season as the captain, as the leader, as the face of this team, especially with how it was handled. So now we want to see how he handles it. And Jim Curtin was saying he's been managing the team. Jim's been managing the team, I should say. Was very positive and optimistic as he should be. I mean, he's not going to come into any press conference or anything and give us anything negative. But he was saying overall the team's been rallying around Ali and rallying in general as a unit, as a family, as a brotherhood. So stepping onto the pitch Saturday in a must-win game, Ali Bedoya is going to be a guy that everyone's going to be looking at. Your youngsters and Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel and Quinn Sullivan and a player like Ty Baribo, they're all going to be looking at him. Jacob Glesnes, Andre Blake, who are his friends that have been playing with him for all these years, they're also going to be looking to him. So depending on how he handles the pressure under the lights Saturday, I think it's going to be telling of if this team's playing free, fun, and just focusing on winning more games together, or if they're maybe overthinking and focusing on other things that we don't need to be talking about right now and focusing about right now.
Yeah, and I think we should give Jim a little more credit than he's been given, because this is not an easy job of keeping everyone even keel. He deserves a lot of credit for sure, but no, I'm going to put Allie and Kai in the same boat, obviously.
Yeah.
I really feel with these last couple matches, these guys are going to give it their all. This is a tight-knit group, and they don't like seeing what's been going on with Allie and Kai, but I really feel with what's been going on, it's gonna be a strong finish for both these players. So I do like that as your player of the game. And communication can be so important, especially if you don't have Brujo, you don't have Bueno, guys who are such great one-on-one defenders. Communication is gonna be extremely important. That has to be out there. You got to get your other players back. So that's gonna be extremely important for this upcoming match.
It is, and it's huge that you are, as you're warming up, as you're traveling to Gillette Stadium, as you're eating your team pregame meal, whatever it is that they're doing as a group, that you're having the right mentality and the right positive upbeat, and you're focused on the game. And that's where the body language, what's being said, how the leaders are leading. Kai's obviously in the same boat, but definitely Ali, Andre, Jacob, Jack. They're going to be very much important to how this team is operating, because something that Jim was saying was they want to just enjoy the time they have together. But listen, sports, it's a business, and nobody is going to have the same team or coaching staff year after year. There's always going to be some change. You don't like it, but it's part of the process. It's part of how sports operate. So coming into the start of the season, you're not going to have the same team maybe by the end, or definitely by the next year. So you want to make sure every game you're just leaving it all out there. And I'm hoping that Saturday is going to be a great opportunity to leave it all out there and to go all in. And you know where else you can go all in? DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right. So with DraftKings Sportsbook, you don't have to miss a moment of baseball playoff action. Playoffs are coming soon for the MLS, but we are already in the playoffs for Major League Baseball, and you can get involved in all the playoff chaos, and new customers have a chance to score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. So you download the app, and you can use code PHLY, and as a new customer, you can score, again, $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. So I don't know what you're waiting for, but it's only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles, got to be 21 or older. That does vary by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. And you can see dkng.co/baseball for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets, I'm like sweating. Bonus bets do expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
I still think we should do like the Big Papi Ortiz in that commercial. We should get the champagne bottle while we're reading these. That'd be really awesome. Gambling
problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I just think that commercial is bizarre because it's very weird, and it's just very weird. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know who thought of that and was like, ooh, I know what we can do. Let's have you just shoot champagne at the entire commercial. Like, it's just odd, and it's very uncomfortable.
A lot of these sports books are coming out with these outrageous commercials. It's weird.
I guess it's just to make it as unique and memorable as possible. That's my politically correct responses, because that's all I got for those. Otherwise, it's just inappropriate and weird and got some really odd innuendos. But before we wrap up here, we've talked a lot about the matchup this weekend. We've gotten into a lot of the X's and O's predictions and thoughts on players, but also it's time to get in predictions on scores. Now, I was interested that Sam actually was not fully all in of like the Revolution are going to win. He was more like hopeful and optimistic that they would win, but wasn't clearly saying, oh yeah, it's going to be without a doubt a 1-0, 2-0 game for the Revolution. But I do agree that this is a game that's very much the ball is in the court for the Union. Mm-hmm. It's about what they do. Are they going to come into this game play a strong 90 minutes, put the ball away? If so, I think that they're going to win this game. I've got the Union winning against the Revolution. Again, this being decision day, I am hoping I'm correct because it's time. It's time to finally win. So here's my score prediction for the game Saturday. The Union are going to win by 2 goals. Okay. I think it's important to have a more open game. I don't want this to be like a 1-goal game or like definitely not tie or anything down the wire. I'm expecting a 3-1 victory for the Union. Is I think what I put actually. Did I put that?
You did.
I did. Oh, hey. I couldn't even remember because I was going to say 2-0 at first. But I'm going to go with 3-1. I do feel like the Revolution might get a goal at some point. I know I gave a 3-1 prediction before, and I was wrong. But I think this time I'm going to be correct. I could see the Union scoring first. I think somewhere in there, the Revolution's going to get on the scoreboard with like a fluke goal. It's probably going to be 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, and then they're going to end up winning 3-1. It's like my full-on game prediction.
Okay. Well, obviously you guys can tell I got 1-0 Union. I think the big part of this, you mentioned Bruce Arena. I mean, this team was well constructed, but it was also constructed for Bruce Arena and the way he likes to play.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. It's New England, it's Philly. There's going to be a lot of regression. There's going to be some pent up emotions as well from both sides, both on and off the pitch. And I think that's what's going to make it entertaining. But it's going to be a playoff match. Mm-hmm. It's decision day. Both these teams have seedings to fight for here. So I would definitely look out for that. But I think it's still going to be low scoring simply because of how these teams play and just the emotions these teams play with. So I think in the end, I think my boy Carranza gets it. I think he gets the goal that matters. I think the Union walk away with 3 points and the number 3 seed.
Yes.
Chester.
The key is 3. Walking away with 3 points. I've got 3 goals, but either way, I'll take 3 points to clinch that number 3 seed. Very specific that you've got Julian scoring that goal. High. Okay. I love it. I hope Julian scores at least a goal. Eugene Krabs, you're talking about the points bet commercial. I had to remember, I was like just Googling quickly. Paige, I think it's Spiranak is how you say her last name. Her middle name is actually Renee, which I didn't know, but I just found that out. Spelled the same way I spell my name.
God, you're all over YouTube.
Yeah, and that commercial is very cringy. It's extremely odd. But what's hopefully not odd is our predictions for the game. Hopefully we are correct. I think it should be a great day for the Union to come out with 3 points, clinch the number 3 seed, have the momentum, feel good heading into the postseason, and especially after the last couple of weeks with the chaos of the international break, it is so important that they as a unit and as a team can walk off the field at a Gillette Stadium feeling good about themselves, having won, versus it being like a dreadful tie or loss. So Fingers crossed we're correct. Fingers crossed if we're not correct, it's at least a Union victory, most importantly. But again, that game, 6 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, Saturday at Gillette Stadium. As talked about, all the chaos this weekend and excitement, I should say, of Philly sports games that are taking place. We've got the Phillies in the NLCS. We've got the Flyers, who have been doing well to start off their season.
Shouts to Flyers.
Yeah, the Union, who of course are playing Saturday night. The Eagles playing
Green.
Sunday night. And the Kelly Green. I can't wait to see them in the Kelly Green against the Dolphins. Wait, that was my attempt at a dolphin. Wait, in my head it was going to come out so much better than that. They do like a barking thing. Like a dolphin kind of barks.
Listen, there's some weird things in NFL fan bases. Don't go to Tennessee. They do the hoot. Like, yeah, it's some weird stuff.
In my mind, I can hear it, but I feel like from here to like it actually being said with, yeah, there it is. You're going to lose. But, yeah, it's going to be a great, great game. Can anybody tell me when the Philadelphia Union play offer on the start? What is that?
Can anyone tell me when the playoff... So if you're asked about the playoff, we don't know the start.
Playoff start. Maybe it's a typo, yeah.
We don't know the playoff start yet. So we know the scheduling for the playoffs per se. So wild card games start on October 25th. First round, October 23rd through November 12th. Conference semis and conference finals, November 25th through December 3rd. And MLS Cup on December 9th, Brian. Yeah.
So, Brian, great question because playoffs are almost here. And October 28th to November 12th is when we'll have that round one. Now, again, there's definitely going to be a lot because you've got to factor in whoever's hosting, and depending on when the games are, you're working around other leagues, other games that are being played, especially for teams that share a field, such as how like Gillette Stadium is shared. So a lot of factors there, but it should be kicking off for the Union in the playoffs October 28th. Oh, how did I forget the Sixers preseason game? Because it's preseason.
Hey.
But it's still a game. They're still playing. They're still running up and down the court. I'm excited for their games to finally be able to be regular season games instead of preseason. But again, JP, can you repeat? It's I know Brian. Brian lost us here for a moment.
Wild card games, October 25th they begin. Round one is October 28th through November 12th. Conference semis and conference finals are between November 25th through December 3rd, and MLS Cup is on December 9th. And we'll really talk about this in our future episodes.
The beauty is you don't have to have it memorized because we've got you covered here on PHLY Union Podcast, where as we get the official playoff picture for the Union, we'll be able to talk about when they're playing, who they're playing. But what we do know is they're not playing in the wild card game that's happening on October 25th. So after they have Decision Day tomorrow and face the Revolution, the Union would play again. It'd be about a week before they play again, October 28th at the earliest that they'll be starting off their best of three series for round one. So that's the good part. We don't have to worry about a wild card round for them. They do get at least a break in that sense before getting into that best of three series. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, though. We will keep you up to date on this show as we're working through the playoffs. Excited to be able to break down the MLS schedule, the playoff picture, and of course, hopefully as the Union continue winning, it only makes our jobs, the show, you guys in the chat that are joining us, Brian, Eugene, Spiral, whoever's joining us in the chat live, it makes it that much more fun for us to be able to have these conversations on PHLY
Thank you, guys. Union
Podcast. Yes, we definitely think the Union can get back.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, it's anybody's. The beauty about this postseason, there are no clear favorites. In past seasons, you've had a team that was a clear front runner and you were just trying to see who could possibly knock them off. Although the Union have struggled down the stretch to get wins, you can't go into the postseason and say it's definitely Cincinnati, it's definitely LAFC. It's anybody's season to make it to the championship, and it's anybody's season to win the MLS Cup. So I absolutely feel like the Union, who are currently sitting number 3 in the East, without a doubt have a chance to win it all. Eugene Krabs is saying it too. We're winning it all this year, right?
I love it for Eugene. Let's go.
That's the goal, winning it all. Listen, last year, as the city of brotherly love, we were also the city of finalists. This year, it's time to be the city of champions.
Let's go.
We've got more to talk about here on PHLY Union Podcast. But for now, go Phillies, Union, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, all of our teams playing this weekend. How many cities can say that? How many cities can say all their teams are playing between preseason games all the way through to playoff games? Not many, but we can. So be sure to follow us at PHLY_Union on Twitter, at PHLY_sports on everything else to stay up to date as we're bringing you the latest content around not only the Union, but all of our Philly sports teams. For JP, Tyler, and myself, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Let's go Union! Get a dub!
We all silly like the mayor.